Hey basketball guys, we have news. Let's go to more news from the Golden State Warriors, but before that, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave your like. Moses Moody has everything to improve his game and grow into a great player, but the few minutes he has with the Warriors don't allow him to develop. Coach Steve Kerr has had problems with the Warriors' young talent, and this has affected Moses Moody. The Warriors have the option of involving him in commercial negotiations to acquire another player, such as a great center, so Moses Moody should be exchanged with the Chicago Bulls for Nikola Vucevic or for another player who could be solid this season. Moses Moody will likely be traded to another team. Since being drafted 14th overall in the 2021 NBA Draft, Golden State Warriors guard Moses Moody has never really gotten a fair chance to develop. Sure, he's received a fair amount of minutes, but his time on the court has been very inconsistent despite showing some real promise as a scorer. This scoring ability is something the Warriors could really use alongside Stephen Curry. Yet, Moody constantly rides the bench, playing an average of 14.5 minutes per game throughout his career. Sure, he may not be the best playmaker, but he's a solid enough defender to earn more minutes on this struggling Warriors team. Regardless, Moody hasn't been given the best chance to succeed in Golden State, and with him being over a quarter of the way through his fourth season, it may be time for both sides to move on from one another. Moody is averaging 8.2 points per game while shooting 40.4% from three on roughly 4 attempts, despite playing only 16 minutes a night. This type of offensive output is one many teams could take advantage of. Yet, the Warriors don't. Moody has been rumored to be in trade discussions for a couple of seasons now, but with deals for Lauri Markkanen and others not going the way the Warriors had hoped, Moody is still wasting away on this roster. With stars like Jimmy Butler, Bradley Beal and more potentially being available at the trade deadline, the Warriors may be able to include Moody in a deal to finally give him a chance to blossom in a new environment. It's unlikely that Moody will ever reach star level, but his role in Golden State has clearly been holding him back since he was drafted. His offensive output and efficiency are too good for him to receive such inconsistent minutes. Hopefully, the two sides can find a way to solve this issue. It's doubtful that head coach Steve Kerr suddenly changes his mind and UPS Moody's minutes, so perhaps a trade is the only way for both parties to benefit heading into the halfway point of the season. How did Jonathan Kuminga react to NBA trade rumors? The Golden State Warriors received bleak injury news over the weekend, as it was announced that promising young forward Jonathan Kuminga suffered a significant ankle sprain and will be out for at least 3 weeks. He was spotted on crutches as the Dubs lost to the Sacramento Kings. Kuminga has been hot and cold all season long. He has been included in his fair share of trade rumors. He was not offered an extension and will be a restricted free agent this summer. However, the fourth-year forward doesn't seem too worried about what his future might bring. As one of the better young players in the league, Kuminga has been included in several mock trades as the Warriors look to add a win-now player. In the past, he has seemed on the outs with the Warriors but had recently been one of their very best players until he was sidelined to start the new year. "I feel good," said Kuminga about trade rumors and his future with the organization. "You never know what's going to happen, but I'm pretty confident this is where I'm at. I feel good about everything that's going on right now." If the Warriors do trade him, he will likely find a bigger role on a new team. If they keep him, he can play meaningful minutes for a competitive team, although not anytime soon, as his injury has ruled him out for a significant time period. Related, which former Warriors player spoke about Caitlin Clark? If all goes well, he will return in time for a home game against the Los Angeles Lakers on January 25th. In 32 games this year, he is averaging 16.8 points, 5 rebounds, and 2.2 assists while shooting 34.5% from three-point range. 3 players Warriors must lean on in Jonathan Kuminga's absence. In the wake of Jonathan Kuminga going down with an ankle injury during Golden State's 121-113 win over the Memphis Grizzlies, the Warriors will be in need of some reinforcements. The injury, which is expected to keep Kuminga sidelined for at least 3 weeks, is untimely and unfortunate for a handful of reasons. Firstly, the Warriors seem to be finally hitting their stride as a unit. Winners of 3 of their past 4, at the time, the first and second units seem to finally be finding some consistency with the new addition of Dennis Schroeder. And secondly, along with the Warriors hitting their stride, Kuminga himself seemed to finally be breaking new grounds. The fourth-year forward has looked as confident and dynamic as he's ever been in the past few weeks. Luckily for the Warriors, despite their many flaws, their roster depth is actually one of their key strengths. So while no individual player can fully replace Kuminga's production, the Warriors do have a handful of good options who they can turn to in his absence. Below is a list of 3 players whom the Warriors need to get increased production out of over the next 3+ weeks. The Warriors' ability to keep their momentum and pace in the Western Conference could hinge on the ability of these 3 players to handle larger roles. 3 players Warriors must lean on in Jonathan Kuminga's absence. Kyle Anderson. Perhaps the player who could be in line for the greatest uptick in playing time is first-year Warrior, Kyle Anderson. Anderson has seemed to get the short end of the stick recently as far as playing time is concerned, largely due to coach Steve Kerr looking to shorten his regular rotation down to 9 players, usually. As a result, Anderson's playing time has fluctuated in recent weeks. Last game, the first without Kuminga, Anderson saw 16 minutes, the game before that 22 minutes of action, and the game before that, just 8. Anderson has even collected 6 DNPs this season. Generally speaking, however, when Anderson's number has been called, he's delivered. With Kuminga out for upwards of 3 weeks, Anderson will likely have his number called with much more regularity going forward. And while Anderson is far from the slasher that Kuminga is, the 6 feet 9 inches combo forward holds sizable advantages as both a defender and distributor over Kuminga. Look for Anderson to surpass the 20-minute threshold with much more consistency while Kuminga remains out. With his signature slow-mo style of play, Anderson should be able to consistently make impact plays while leaning on his defensive instincts and veteran smarts. Buddy Hield. It's too early to say, but Buddy Hield may be breaking out of his shooting slump. Following back-to-back solid games, Hield may finally be turning a corner. Yes, 2 games is far from a large enough sample size to draw any real takeaways from, but the Warriors are desperate for any signs of improvements from Hield right now. Beginning with the game where Kuminga sustained his injury, Hield looked a lot like the player he was at the start of the season. He connected on an efficient 5 of 9 field goal attempts, including 4 3-pointers, en route to 14 points. Hield then followed that performance up with 7 points against the Sacramento Kings, in the Warriors' first full game without Kuminga. Yes, 7 points from Hield is far from overly impressive, but the game was essentially out of hand and over by halftime. Had the game been more tightly contested, Hield could have been on his way to a decent showing. He only logged 18 minutes during the blowout loss. Buddy Hield is one of the few Warriors players capable of going off for 20+ points on any given night. While those nights have been few and far between in recent weeks, heavy emphasis on the word few, hypothetically, Hield is still capable if he gets in a groove. With Kuminga sidelined by injury, the Warriors desperately need Hield to catch a rhythm now more than ever and provide some scoring support for Steph Curry. Moses Moody. Lastly, despite Kerr continuing to show hesitancy when it comes to leaning on Moses Moody, there's no time like the present. Moody has always shown himself to be a capable player, and the time is now to really let him play with some freedom. With Kuminga out of the lineup, the Warriors will be looking for a spark from some other source. Moody is an entirely different player than Kuminga, with a much lower, less explosive ceiling, but if he's one thing, it's reliable. As previously mentioned, No one player on the Warriors is capable of replacing the entirety of Kuminga's production, but Moody is certainly capable of playing his part. With a solid, if not overly impressive, shooting slash of 45.3/40.4/73.8, Moody embodies the prototypical low-volume, high-impact complementary piece. Just as Moody demonstrated during his 13-point performance on 50% shooting against the Kings on Sunday night, these next 3 weeks are as good a time as any to prove to Steve Kerr, and all of Dub Nation, that his production and his game are translatable to a larger role.